Shalom. First off, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Kakadash. It's all honor and glory to the Most High God through His Son, who the world inwardly calls Jesus Christ, right? And I want to give a hearty shalom to the Akwath and to the Akim that's pushing this word in sincerity and faith, and maybe not even out there teaching yet, but still keeping the commandments, being diligent, praying, fasting, and doing everything they can to be part of the elect, man. And of course, I want to give double honors to the elect elders that's been pushing this word in sincerity and faith for many years, man. Right. So early morning, man, just want to go into a little bit of prophecy, man. Try to dig into Revelation 8 a little bit, right? Try to break it down through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Right. So let's get to it. Right. So this is the book of Revelation, chapter 8 and verse 1. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of a half hour. So it said when he had opened the seventh seal. Well, who is it that's opening the seventh seal, man? Right? Is it just a man? Is it an angel? You know, is it Satan? Right? Is it the Most High? Like, who is it that's opening that seventh seal? Well, we got to go back to the book of Revelation, chapter 5, right? It's the book of Revelation, chapter 5, and verse 1. And I saw in the right hand, and I saw in the right hand of him that sat on a throne a book written within, and on the backside sealed with 7 seals. So what? This is talking about who? The Most High, right? In his hand, there was a book written. With the book is really a scroll, a roll. That's what? Sealed, right? And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof. Verse 3, and no man in heaven, nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither look thereon. And I wept much because no man was found worthy to open and read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders said unto me, weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and loose the 7 seals thereof. Who is that Lion of the tribe of Judah, man? Right? That's Yahweh Shai. You're going to find out that's Yahweh Shai, right? And we're going to prove that. Reading on. And when the elder said unto me, so like in verse 6, and I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders stood a lamb, as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits that Yahweh sent forth into all the earth. Right? So the lamb is who that Lion of the tribe of Judah is. And who's that lamb? Let's get that. Right? Let's go to the book of 1 Peter, chapter 1, and verse 19. But with the precious blood of Hamashiach, as of a lamb without blemish, without spot. Right? Let's get one more. It's the book of St. John, chapter 1, and verse 29. And it reads, the next day John seeth Yahushua coming unto him, saith, behold, the Lamb of Yahweh, which hath taken away all the sins of the world. So what? That lamb is who? Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, man. Right? And it says what? Let's go back to it. Of the elders stood a lamb, as it had been slain, having 7 horns. What is that horn, man? Right? Those horns represent your strength. So he has 7 horns. That 7 is a number of completion, meaning Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus Christ, had complete strength, man. Right? Let's get a precept on this. It's the book of Luke, chapter 1, and verse 69. And hath raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David. Has raised up a strength of salvation, right, for us in the house of his servant David, right? What is a horn to a ram? That's his strength. What is a horn to a rhino? That's his strength. That's what he's going to use to attack with, right? So that horn, those 7 horns represent what? Yahushua having complete strength, right? All strength, being all powerful, almighty, whatever you want to call him, man, right? Which are, and 7 eyes. Did he literally have 7 eyes? No, that's going into him being omnipotent, omniscient, being able to see all things and know all things, man, right? Because the eyes of the Lord go to and fro up and down the world, so you see everything, you know everything, right? Let's get that. It's the book, Second Chronicles, chapter 16, and verse 9. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong in behalf of them whose heart perfect toward him. Herein thou hast done foolishly, therefore from henceforth thou shalt have wars. Nonetheless, the point of the matter is the eyes of the Lord run to and fro from out the earth, right? Those eyes represent the angels, right? Through the angels, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, what has all omnipotency. He knows all things. He sees all things, right? So that's what it's going into in the book of Revelation when it says what the Lamb has 7 horns and 7 eyes. It's talking about him having all strength as well as him having what? All omnipotency. Shalakia, right? So let's go back to Revelation 8. All right, so and when he had opened the 7th seal, there was a silence in heaven about a half space of an hour. So we've already established that he that opened the 7th seal was who? Yahweh Shai, right? Yahweh Shai is the one that's opening the 7th seal in the book of Revelation chapter 8. Reading verse 2. And I saw the 7 angels stood before Yahweh, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer. And there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. Right? So it says what? The angel is offering up prayers. Right? The saints are who? Israel. Let's get that. The prayers of the saints. So if it's offering up the prayers of the saints, it's offering up the prayers of the Israelites. Right? It's the book of Psalms, chapter 148 and verse 14. He also exalted the horn of his people, the strength of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise ye the Lord. Right? So the angel is offering up the prayers of the saints, which is Israel. Let's get another precept on it. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 50, in verse 5, and it reads, gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. So the saints are who? Those that have made a covenant with Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai by sacrifice, man. That's who the saints are. So who made a covenant with Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai through sacrifice? It's the book of Exodus. Chapter 24. And verse 7. 6. And Moses took half the blood and put it in the basins, and half the blood, and he sprinkled it in the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read it to the audience of the people. And they said, all that the Lord has said we will do, and be obedient. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on all the people and said, behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words. Right. And we know that the children of Israel is who Moses was dealing with in the wilderness, man, in the book of Exodus. Right. So that blood sacrifice that it talks about in the Psalms that was made with the saints was made with the Israelites. So the Israelites are the saints, man. Right. So when it says that he took up the prayers of the saints, he took up the prayers of the Israelites, man, because the Israelites are what? Crying, weeping, mourning, lamenting, right, for all the abominations that's going on to them and their people day in and day out, man. Right. Matter of fact, let's get that. It even says that in the book of Revelation, chapter 6, in verse 10. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, let's start at 9. Let's start 10 is good. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, doest not thou judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth, man. Right? So what? They continuously praying and complaining to the Most High, lamenting to the Most High for the blood that's being shed of their brethren, right, and of the people of their stock day in and day out on the earth, man, right. And so that's The Spirit's doing that, as well as you got the righteous men that pray in and day out for our redemption, man. Right? So now the angel is doing what? He's taking up the prayers of the Most High, right? And the saints' prayers are like an incense to the Most High, right? It's the book of Psalms, chapter 141. Get it. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 141 and verse 1. Lord, I cry unto thee to make haste unto me. Give ear unto my voice when I cry unto thee. Let my prayer be set before thee as a incense, and lifting up of my hands as an evening sacrifice. Right? So those prayers being sent up by the saints, because David is who? David is a saint. He's an Israelite. Right? And his prayer, let it be set before Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua as an incense, man. Right? So let's go back. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 8 and verse 3. I'm going to read it again. And another angel came up and stood at the altar having a golden censer. And there was given unto him much incense that he should offer with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar, which was before him. So he's offering up the prayer of all the saints. That's what this angel is doing, man. Right? Let's get another precept. It's the book of Tobit, chapter 12 and verse 15. I am Raphael, one of the 7 holy angels, which represent the prayers of the saints and go in and out before the glory of the Holy One. Right? Verse 4. And the smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before Yahweh out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices, thunderings, lightnings, and earthquakes. Right? So the prayers of the saints crying and crying and crying out to the Most High, they're beginning to be heard. And the Lord is now casting judgment upon the earth. That's what's going on. Right? It's the book of Psalms. Book of Psalms, chapter 18 and verse 3. I will call upon the Lord who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. The sorrow of death compassed me, and the floods of the ungodly men made me afraid. The sorrows of hell compassed me about. The snares of death prevented me. In my distress, I called upon the Lord, and I cried unto my power. He heard my voice of his temple, and my cry came before him. My cry came before him, even into his ears. This is what's going on in the book of Revelation, right? Then the earth shook and trembled. The foundations also of the hills moved and were shaken because he was wroth. There went up a smoke out of his nostrils, and fire out of his mouth devoured. Coals were kindled by it. He bowed the heavens also and came down, and darkness was under his feet, and rode upon a cherub and did fly. Yeah, he did fly upon the wings of the wind. Right? So what it's saying here in the book of Revelation, chapter 5, and the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into earth, and there was voices and thunderings and lightnings in the earthquake. Right? So the Lord has heard the prayers and is beginning to cast judgment upon the earth, and he's what? Shaking up the earth, man, through destruction. That's what's beginning to happen right here in the book of Revelation, chapter 8, verse 5. Right? Let's get another precept. It's the book, 2nd Ezra, chapter 15 and verse 7. Therefore saith Yahweh, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit, neither will I suffer them in those things which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood cry unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. Right? So the Lord said he wasn't gonna ignore it anymore. You know, so at this point, what's going on right now is the Lord is no longer holding his peace, man. He's coming back to destroy the wicked. That's what's going on right now, man. Right? Another precept. Book of Luke. Chapter 18. Start from the top. And he spake a parable unto them, this end that men ought always to pray and not to faint, saying, there was in a city a judge which feared not Yahweh, neither regarded man. Right? Like the wicked Esau, man, the wicked so-called white man. And there was a widow in the city, and she came unto him, saying, avenge me of mine adversary. Right? That's Israel. That woman is Israel, right? Because we know Israel is what? Likened unto a comely and delicate woman, right? And he would not for a while, but afterward he said within himself, though I fear not Yahweh, nor regard men, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. And the Lord said, hear what the unjust judge saith, and shall not Yahweh avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, she shall find faith on the earth, man. Right? So the Most High is going to avenge his own elect, man, who's been crying out to him day in and day out. Right? And that's what's beginning to happen in the book of Revelation, chapter 8, verse 5. The Lord he's like, hey, it's been enough. I've long time held my peace. Right? It's time to go ahead and touch these wicked, man. Who's what? Touch the apple of mine eye. Right? The Lord he was beginning to be fed up, man. Right? The book. One more precept on that. It's the book of Job, chapter 23 and verse 1. Then Job answered and said, even today is my complaint bitter. My stroke is heavier than my groaning. Oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might come even to his seat. I would order my cause before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would know the words which he would answer me and understand. He would say unto me, will he plead against me with his great power? No, but he would put strength in me. There the righteous might dispute with him. So should I be delivered forever from my judge. Right? So what? If we find the Most High, seek the Most High, pray to the Most High, go to the Most High, continually, right? He's going to hear our prayers, man, and he's going to justify us before our judge. And who is that judge, man? The so-called white man. Chiefly, it's these other nations, but chiefly the so-called white man. And that's what's going on in the book of Revelation, chapter 8, verse 5. Those prayers are beginning to be heard. And he's now casting judgment upon the earth and upon the wicked, right? It's the book of Revelation, chapter 8 and I'm going to read 5 again. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and earthquakes. Like I said, the Most High is hearing those prayers and beginning to stir up judgment on the earth, right? And the seven angels, which had the 7 trumpets, prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and there followed hailfire mingled with blood, and there were cast upon the earth the third part of the trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up, right? So what? It says hailfire mingled with blood, right? Well, this right here, these are bombs, right? All being caused by what? The destroying angel, the death angels that the Lord has sent out to cast out judgment, right? Let's get a precept. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 39 and verse 28. There be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay sore strokes. In the time of destruction, they pour out their forces and appease the wrath of him that made them. Fire and hail and famine and death, and all these were created for vengeance, right? So for the vengeance of the Most High, the vengeance that he's sending forth through his angels, right, to revenge the blood of his righteous saints, right? He sent forth what? Fire and hail and death, man. Right. In this form, it's going to be through bombs and missiles in World War III. Right. So right here, when you read the first angel sounded and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, it's going into those bombs that's being sent forth. And there were cast upon the earth. The third part of the trees was burnt up. But when it's talking about the third part, is going into emphasis or completion, man. Right? That's what that third part is going into. It's going into emphasis or completion, because three in the scriptures represent emphasis and completion, mainly chiefly emphasis. So he's emphasizing the destruction that's going on to these trees, right? And we're gonna find out that those trees are men and nations, man. Right? So let's get a precept, Salakia. Let's get a precept on that number 3, man. Right? It's the book of John, chapter 21 and verse 15. So when they had dined, Yahushua saith unto Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? And he saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my lambs. He saith to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep. He saith unto him a third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved because he had said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. Yahushua saith unto him, Feed my sheep. So what? He says this 3 times to emphasize unto him the importance of him going out and feeding the sheep. That was the whole reason why he gave it to Simon 3 times. So the number 3 represents emphasis. Right. So this is emphasizing the great magnitude of destruction that's going on to these trees and to this grass. Right. But we know this is not literal trees. This is not literal grass. This is going into the nations. And we're going to prove that. Right. But let's get another precept on the number 3. Out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. Right. It's the book. It's a lot here. It's the book of Samuel. Book 1 Samuel chapter 3 and verse 1. And the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli. Is this it? Ministered unto Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision, and it came to pass at that time when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. And ere the lamp of Yahweh went out in the temple of the Most High, where the ark of the Most High was, and Samuel was laid down asleep. And the Lord called unto Samuel, and he said, Here am I. And he ran unto Eli and said, Here am I, for thou calledest me. And he said, I called not, lie down again. And he went to lay down. That's the first time. And the Lord called again Samuel. And Samuel rose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst callest me. And he answered and called, I called not, my son, lie down. Now Samuel did not yet know the Most High, neither was the word of the Most High yet revealed unto him. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time. And he rose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst callest me. And Eli perceived that Yahweh had called the child. So what? After the third time, Eli, who knew the Lord, who was a minister of the Most High, right, who was a priest, he was like, okay, it's 3 times. That's emphasis for the Most High. Now he understands that it's the Most High, right? And the Lord called Samuel again the third time. So like verse 9. Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, Go lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt say, Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. So Samuel went to lay down in his place. So what? After that third time, after that emphasis, that's when Eli, who was a man of the Lord, understood that's the Lord calling to you, right? And he told Samuel, Speak, because that third time is for emphasis, to magnify the importance of something, right? So when it goes, so let's go back to the book of Revelation, right? Book of Revelation, chapter 8 and verse 7. The first angel sounded, and there followed hellfire that mingled with blood. Okay, we understand that this is destruction coming through the bombs, right? And there cast upon the earth and the third part of the trees. So that third part is going into the emphasis of the destruction of these nations, right? Because trees represent nations, right? Let's prove that. It's the book of Ezekiel, right? Chapter 31 In verse 3, behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon. A cedar is a tree with fair branches and with shadowing shroud and of a high stature, and his top was among the thigh bows. Right. So what? That cedar tree is being representing the Assyrian, right? A nation, right? So these trees represent nations or men or people, right? Let's get another precept on that. It's the book. Salakia. The book of Mark, chapter 8, and verse 24. And he looked up and said, I see men as trees walking, right? So men are likened unto trees in the scriptures, man. Let's get another one. Right? Book of Matthew, chapter 7 and verse 16. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or fig thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree can bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast in the fire. Wherefore, you shall know them by their fruits. Right? That's likening trees unto men and their fruit unto their works and their deeds, man. Right? So trees are likened unto men and to nations in the scriptures. So when it talks about Salakia, when it talks about the third part of the trees, it's not talking about the actual third. It's talking about it's emphasizing the destruction on these nations that's happening at this point in the book of Revelation, right? Salakia. Something in my eye. Right? Let's get one more. The mighty book, right? The mighty book of Daniel. This dream, I, King Nebuchadnezzar, I have seen. Now thou, O Belshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof, for as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make it known unto me the interpretation, but thou art able, for the spirit of the holy gods is in thee. And then Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, was astonished for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spake and said, Belshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belshazzar said, my Lord, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation of thine enemies. The tree that thou sawest, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heaven, and with sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair and fruit that were of much, and it was meat for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, upon whose branches the fowls of the heaven had their habitat. It is thou, O king, that art grown and become strong, for greatness is grown and reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion is to the end of the earth. Right? So this tree in this vision represented who? Nebuchadnezzar. So trees represent men in the scriptures, man. Straight like that, right? So let's go back to the book of Revelation, right? The book of Revelation, chapter 8 and verse 7. The first angel sounded, and there followed hell and fire mingled with blood, right? So we understand that that's bombs, right? Mingled with blood cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees, right? So the complete destruction of these nations, right? It's emphasizing the destruction of these nations was burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt up. Is that talking about literal grass? Once again, trees and grass are likened unto men. Right? The book of Isaiah, chapter 40 and verse 7. The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, because the spirit of Yahweh bloweth upon it. Surely the people is grass. Right? So the grass is people. right? Just like the trees are people and nations, man, right? Back to Revelation 8. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and there cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees was burnt up, and the green grass was burnt up. So what? This is emphasis on the destruction of the nations, right? Right. So represents represents emphasis, right? Completion would be 7 or 10, right? 3 represents emphasis. 3 is the emphasis on the destruction that's happening to these nations. That's what's going on in the book of Revelation, right? Let's move on. Verse 8, and the second angel sounded, as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, right? So this great mountain, right, is a missile again, right? So this great mountain burning with fire, what? It's not a volcano. It's not talking about a volcano kind of got tossed into the water, right? It's a huge missile. Like John the Revelator is seeing it, he's likening it unto a mountain. It's a huge missile being cast into the sea, right? But is that sea actually water? No, right? Let's get a precept, right? So this huge missile is being cast into what, right? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 17 and verse 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, right? So this great mountain, which is a missile, and the sea that is being casted into is a nation, is nations and multitudes of people. So this great missile is going to be cast into these nations, right, for further destruction. That's what's going on, right? You know, and the third part of the sea became blood. So when we start talking about the third part of the sea becoming blood, it's not going into the actual third part of the sea again, man. It's emphasis on how much blood was being shed in these nations, man. It's emphasizing it's going to be a great amount of blood, man. It's going to be a complete destruction, right? Reading on. Verse 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, right? So is it an actual star? Is it kind of a shooting star falling from heaven? No, these are more missiles, man. There's a lot of destruction going on, man. We got bombs. We got missiles flying left and right. Hey, that's the reason why Jake got to get right, man, right? Because this is for the other nations. But a lot of you wicked Israelites, if you make it out of Jacob trouble, man, you're going to die in this too. This is why you got to kind of repent. Not kind of, you got to repent, man, completely, man. Right? Because this is sword destruction that's coming to this place, man. Right? We go back. Verse 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. See? And it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. Well, we already established that the waters and the rivers, right, are a representation for nations, right? So now we understand that when it falls, did I skip something? Salaki, I did. Verse 9. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea, right? This is talking about a literal sea because it talks about the creatures which were in the sea had life, died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. So this part is talking about a literal sea. Verse 9 is talking about a literal sea because it lets you know about the creatures that were in the sea, right? And had life, died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. Those ships are talking about the naval ships, the submarines, and all these different ships that are going to be in the waters, actually in the waters at these times. The tankers, your damn destroyer ships, your damn submarines, all these other ships is going to be in the waters at this time. Hey, they're all going to be destroyed, man. Right? They're going to be destroying each other as well as they're going to be destroyed by Yahweh and the angels, right? And the creatures that are in the water as well, right? Verse 10, go back to verse 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, right? That great star is a bomb. That's what that great star is. It's the book, the book of Matthew. chapter 24 and verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days is going into Jacob's trouble. Shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the power of the heavens shall be shaken. Right? That's talking about the missiles that's going to fall, the missiles that's going to come destroying this wicked place, man. Right? Immediately after Jacob's trouble. Because of what? What follows Jacob's trouble? Jacob's trouble is the fifth seal, World War III, sixth seal, man. Right? So immediately after Jacob's trouble, there's going to be the missiles falling, man. Right? Let's see the book of Second Ezra, Salakia. The book, Second Ezra, chapter 5 and verse 3. And the land that thou seest now to have root shall be wasted suddenly. Right? So what? It's going to be, how is it going to be suddenly wasted? From that falling star, man. Those missiles. That's how it's going to suddenly be wasted. Right? Let's go back to Revelation. Salakia, bear with me. Verse 10, and the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell to the third part of the rivers upon the fountains of water. So it fell upon the third part of the rivers upon the fountains of water, right? And it destroyed these places completely. It's a missile, right? That's what's going on, right? Verse 11. And the name of the star is called wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many died of the waters because they were made bitter. So wormwood just represents bitterness, right? That's what wormwood is. If you look up the word wormwood, wormwood is like a bitter herb. It really means a bitter state. If you say you're in wormwood, wormwood just represents bitterness, right? The book of Proverbs, chapter 5 and verse 1. My son, attend unto wisdom and bow thine ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. So wormwood represents bitterness, right? That's what wormwood represents, a form of bitterness, right? It's the book. It's a lot. The book of Lamentation, chapter 3. And he hath filled me with bitterness. He hath made me drunken with wormwood. So wormwood represents bitterness. That's what wormwood is. It's a form of bitterness, right? The waters and the nations. Waters represent nations in many instances, right? Let's get a precept. Waters represent nations and people, right? The book of Isaiah, pull it up on my phone. It's the book of Isaiah, Salakia, chapter 59 and verse 19. So that they shall fear the name of the Lord, the West, and the glory. Salakia, is it 59, 19 I'm looking for? Salakia, should be 59, 19. Come on, yeah. So they shall fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of the Lord shall lift up the standard against him. So what? The waters represent nations and peoples, right? The enemy shall come in like a flood. It's likening the enemy unto a flood, because a flood comes rushing in, man. You can't stop it. You can't kind of hold it back. It's gonna come rushing in. So in that day right here that Isaiah is talking about, he's talking about the enemy coming and rushing like a flood, which the enemy is gonna do once again in the time of Jacob's trouble, man. But nonetheless, waters represent nations and people, right? Nations and people. Everything we got to understand with context. There are times when the waters are going to represent just regular waters. There's going to be times when the waters and rivers represent people and nations. So we got to read it in the context of what's going on and use discernment, right? And then you get an understanding of what's actually going on with those words. But waters do represent nations and people, right? Let's go back to Revelation. It's a lot, right? And the name of the star is called wormwood. So the name of this missile is called wormwood because it's bitter. It's going to bring bitter destruction to this place, right? That's where I'm at, right? Make sure I didn't. And men died of the waters because they were made bitter, right? So of the nations, many men died because it was made bitter through the bitter destruction that was brought to this place. Through what? Through missiles, through bombs, through complete destruction, man. Right? Verse 12. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone, and none of the third part of it, and the night likewise. Right? So, like, is it talking about the actual sun was kind of smitten? No, man. Right? The sun and the moon represent what? They represent the wisdom and the knowledge, right? Let's get that. It's the book of Micah. It's a lot. The book of Micah. Chapter 3 and verse 6. Therefore, night shall be unto you, that ye shall not have a vision, and it shall be dark unto you, that ye shall not divine. And the sun shall go down over the prophets, and the day shall be dark over them. So there won't be any understanding going on with the so-called white man. His science ain't gonna work. His damn radars ain't gonna work. His damn whatever you want to call it, his satellites ain't gonna work. All his knowledge that he's put into his science, his technology, his space force, his air force, none of those things are gonna work in that day, right? All that knowledge the Lord is gonna strip away from him. He's not gonna have that in that day. That's what that's going into, right? Let's get another precept. That's the book, like 20, Isaiah. The book of Isaiah, chapter 24, and verse 23. Then the moon shall be confounded, and the sun ashamed, when the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and Jerusalem, and before his ancient glories. So it's going to actually be confounded. How can the moon be confounded and ashamed? No, it's saying there won't be any wisdom and knowledge, man. That's what that's going into. There will be no wisdom and knowledge in the land, right? Except for Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. There won't be any damn, Doppel radar, whatever they call it, man. Sonar radar, whatever they call it. There ain't gonna be none of that. None of that's gonna be going on, man. All that is gonna be completely cast down and destroyed. And the so-called white man, his wisdom, and anybody who's following his wisdom is gonna be confounded with him, man. Just straight like that. He's gonna confound him in that day. Right? Verse 13, and I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, woe, 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 the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpets of the three angels are yet to sound. And so what? They're completely destroyed, man. Bitter destruction, man. That's what that's going into. All praise to the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, due to what? The complaints of the righteous saints and the prayers of the righteous saints being heard by the Most High, and him coming to redeem his people and bringing back vengeance upon the wicked for touching the apple of his eye, man. So with that, Lord willing, somebody was edified, right? And I'm going to say shalom.